casket found by a lady, young, scrappy, and hungry for some knowledge about the babes that came before her. From the warriors and heroes to the scholars to ladies talking about how a woman's role is more than having babies while discussing their anxiety and depression. It's an obsession with women you've never heard of, but probably should have. And the world's gonna know their names. What's her name, bitch? Sophia Flores. We are singing this song for you. Don't you ever back down, and don't forget to stop and whine. Oh, Miss Sophia Flores, know that you are never alone. Look at what all these women overcame. These bitches rewrote the game. The world will never be the same. Join them in the pantheon. Take your rightful place. Show the world you're more than just a pretty face. Don't let the patriarchy get you down there, a disgrace. We cheer for you. We whine for you. We sing for you. And we abso-fucking-lutely love you. There's a million things that you can do, but we will wait. What's her name, babe? Sophia Flores.
That was beautiful.
Was it?
I was over here like jamming out. I'm like, hell yeah.
It really helps when the source material bops.
Haven't seen Hamilton, which is like... I'm like horrified to admit that I've heard the songs, but I've never actually seen it.
There were so many parts of that where I was like, "Oh shit, I'm off the rhythm."
You were good in it, like
I just fucking went for it.
No, it was good.
This intro I have like off the cuff workshopped in several episodes, and Sophia Flores, who is sponsoring the glass of wine tonight.
And has previously sponsored.
We joked about doing, because we were doing the Sophia. And we joked about doing a Hamilton rap parody with her name. So she sponsored another glass of wine, and she's like, Sophia Hamilton rap? I'm like,
Emily's like, yeah, I can do this.
Yes. And it's been a bit coming. I had to workshop it a bit. We were also recording remotely, and I didn't want to do it. Like, I wanted to wait until we were together. So Sophia, thank you for your patience. This one's for you. I went through several of the songs trying to figure out which one would be best.
That one I think was like perfect.
Yeah, like I thought about doing Burn, where it's like, we read every message you wrote us. And when we read them, we knew we would whine, that we had to whine. You asked us to whine.
I don't know if anyone asked us to.
I mean, if you're giving us money to sponsor a glass of wine, you are asking us to whine. But I was like, that's a little slow. I thought about doing like a mix, like a medley of different songs. I'm like,
no, this was
you're
perfect.
not that musical, Emily. You gotta stick to the basics.
Yeah.
So Sophia, hopefully it was worth the wait. And to everyone who has ever been involved with the Hamilton production, I'm so sorry. There's a reason I'm not putting shit on Broadway, okay?
This is an homage, this is a bastardization.
I would actually say this is a parody, because an homage implies respect, and there is no way I was respectful to anyone except for Sophia during that. So,
I mean, yeah, but it's fine.
Well,
Emily, what are we drinking?
The glass of wine,
Hamilton.
The glass of wine that Sophia has sponsored is a glass of 7 Deadly Sins. We have had this before. It's one of my favorites. It's a 2018 Zinfandel, and it's based on the 7 Deadly Sins. Haha, puns. We love it.
Emily loves it.
I fucking love it.
It's a good wine.
It's a good wine. This is a wine that I've like rebought, I think, a few times, because it's
clearly
really
that's
good.
why it's here.
So the back reads, "Sinful indeed," and that part's in italics. "This wickedly delicious Zinfandel is temptation at first sip. Born from a Catholic school upbringing and our winemaker's lust for hedonistically seductive wine, this flagship old vine Zinfandel hails from the enviable Lodi appellation, where Zinfandel reigns supreme. We've given our souls to growing some of the finest grapes so that saints and sinners alike can enjoy." I also love the born from a Catholic school upbringing. I'm like, oh my God, same here.
Yeah.
Like, we can relate to that, and we can relate to taking our Catholic school upbringing and making it, like, turning it into sinful activity.
Hell yeah.
But sinful, by the way, Catholics apparently think it is, by being gay and drinking and talking about inequities in society and how women shouldn't be confined to the home.
Yeah, basically.
So cheers to Sophia Flores and all the sinners. I think this is one of the first wines that made me realize Zinfandels fuck.
Like,
I like
sometimes
a Zinfandel.
they don't, but like, yeah, like they're a red with a nice bite that's not like too much or too dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They make me want, and I'm sure I've talked about this before, they make me want a burger with pepper jack cheese and green olives. Like, that would pair so perfectly with this wine.
Yeah.
And I might have to make that happen soon. The hyperfixation has locked in, and now it will be my obsession.
Nice.
So, Kelly,
Yeah.
who are you whining about?
Who am I whining about?
Who art thou whining about?
I feel like we just moved to a different era.
Who art thou? We jump around eras constantly, though.
I am whining about Helen Gibson. I had a name for her. Oh, okay, sorry. The most daring actress in pictures.
Ooh.
Back when they were called pictures.
All I want to do is be on the pictures.
I mean, I guess it's better than being called the Talkies, which I always found was just such a weird name.
Yeah.
But I get it, like, because it was silent before, and then, yeah. But yes. So, the most daring actor in the actress.
Girl, you're pretty enough to be in the pictures. Come on with me, and I'll make you a star.
Exactly.
And you definitely won't have to be on diet pills and caffeine and basically speed to stay thin, and no one's going to hit you in the face during filming of a movie.
Jesus, don't worry. None of that happens in this.
Wizard of Oz.
Oh, yeah, it was fucked.
The director literally, like, I can't remember if he slapped or punched. It doesn't really matter, but Judy Garland in the face.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was a scene where she was upset and crying, and he didn't feel she was upset enough. And he's
I think he slapped her.
Yeah. So he starts like smacking her around,
like,
and then she was also sexually harassed and like assaulted by some of the other, not any of the, not like the Tin Man.
No, but
Lion,
like the lesser cast.
Like some of like the side characters.
So young.
Well, she was young, but she also developed early. Oh, yeah. So they also like strapped her tits down. Yeah, and it was really uncomfortable.
There was that movie. Like, if you look into the background of that movie, it was kind of fucked.
Like, it's so funny because there's the urban legend about the little person who hung themselves, and you can see them swinging in the scene. That's not what it was at all. Mm-mm. But the truth behind that movie is just as dark.
There was a lot of just cast harassment.
You don't need a little person completing suicide for the, you know, behind the scenes of that movie to be super dark. The guy who originally was going to play the Tin Man literally almost died. Bro was in an iron lung. Yeah. like it was bad. It was
shit
bad.
Did go down.
Yeah. That would be
not the shit people said went down.
So Morbid does a really good episode on behind. I'm like, how can we incorporate? It's not really in our.
It's too famous.
Well, it's too famous. It's not herstory focused enough.
Like we could do like Judy Garland, but like
she's too famous.
She's too famous, and that's like a fucking that. It would have to be like an entire episode just her, because like
it would have to be a series.
Yeah. And we're just not like the right podcast to do it.
Yeah, but check out Morbid's episode on behind the scenes of Wizard of Oz. Really, really good. Really fascinating. You're never going to quite watch the movie the same. And this isn't like if you like that movie, shame on you. It's just, you know what? If you're into history, you're into the dark shit. And that's the dark shit of movie history.
Yeah.
So tell me about this badass actor who fortunately was not hit in the face.
Yeah. She did crazy things, but her choice.
Did she hit people in the face?
Sometimes, actually, yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm ready.
So she was actually originally born Rose August Wenger. Sorry, I missed an N in there. In 1879. She's a little lass from Cleveland, Ohio. She was one of 5 girls to Swiss German parents, Fred and Annie. And I was like, oh, they just sound like so wholesome.
They do. Fred and Annie. I'm like, oh my God, they're the mom and dad in, that live next to Leave It to Beaver or something.
Helen, however, was not your average Ohio farm girl. You see, her father had really wanted a son, and clearly he never got it. He had 5 daughters. Nothing wrong with that. But, in the 1870s, you want someone that you can pass on your legacy to and work on the farm and, stuff that girls don't do. Girls can definitely do that.
Also, I will say, I know that it's like the male DNA that determines the sex of a child.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this is your own fault, dude.
Also, though, 5 girls seems like with essentially a 50-50 shot. I'm like, dude, your DNA was very
It's
pro
kind of
girl.
like I understand why, even though my mother-in-law really wanted a girl, she stopped after having the 4th boy, and she was just like, you know what, I'm good. Yeah. I'm done.
She's like, this is statistically improbable.
Like, 2 of you should be girls.
It's not gonna change.
Yeah,
it's not gonna change. Girls obviously run in the family,
but because he never got a son. Like, she admittedly said that her father encouraged her to be a tomboy, which is kind of cool, that he wasn't necessarily like, oh, be the son I didn't get, but he was like, hey, if you want to pursue the more masculine things, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So she would see her first Wild West show in Cleveland, at the summer fair in 1909. So she's 20.
Okay.
But, takes time for these things. Yeah. And she decided that's what she wanted to do. Whether that's the life of growing up as a tomboy or just wanting maybe to get out of Cleveland, Ohio. Who knows?
I'm going to go with the latter.
Yeah.
Ohio is like slang for something that fucking sucks now. Just the word. Just the word Ohio. It's
all
bad.
I can think of is.
And I'm like, I'm not surprised.
Ohio is for Lovers by Hawthorne Heights.
Oh my God,
really big when we were in
middle school, high school.
And then there's also the song, it's called Come Back to Texas, but the girl in that song runs away to Ohio. And he's like, I know they have Drew Carey and stuff, but come on.
That's fucking funny. Yeah,
yeah, but you're in Texas, so maybe neither. But
yeah, at least Ohio, you can drive 8 hours and get the fuck out of Ohio.
Exactly. So this young girl had no experience with horses, so she grew up on a farm, but not raising horses. This is more crop farming versus animal farming. But she was so entranced by the idea of rodeos and seeing this that she was like, I'm going to just look for job postings. And then, she did. She looked for job postings, found one, and then ran away to the circus because that's really that's who did rodeos in those days, were these traveling acts that were the circus. So yeah, she found an ad to the Miller Brothers 101 Ranch was the name of the company that was doing this,
the touring company,
and they were specifically looking for girl riders, and this was in Billboard magazine, so it's okay, it's a little bit more reputable but still questionable, but whatever.
Everything in the early 1900s was questionable. Just inherently. Nothing was fully on the up and up.
Yeah, but they were fine taking Rose. They taught her how to ride, and she learned how to perform. And so by April of 1910, she began performing in their Wild West shows, doing trick shooting and riding. She was a very quick learner, and one of the first things she learned that audiences loved was at a full gallop, she would lean off the side of the horse to pick up a handkerchief. And that was her trick. And to the point where in an interview at one point, she said the other rodeo veterans were don't do this. You're going to get kicked in the head by your horse. This is a terrible fucking idea. And she literally said, this is her quote, such things might happen to others, but could never happen to me. And I'm like, you being this cocky is how it's going to happen to you.
I will also say that is every 20-year-old. That is like, there is a long period of you growing up where you kind of think that happens to other people. It can't happen to me. You feel indestructible.
Yeah.
And you realize you are fucking
See, I feel like
not.
At 20, I did not feel indestructible because, like, literally in my notes I wrote, yeah, so while most of us at 20 are having, like, crises and trying to figure out how to adult, Helen/Rose is over here doing backflips on horses.
I was definitely, because I have an anxiety disorder, I was definitely less like I'm invincible. Exactly. But I still look back at things I did when I was like in my 20s going, bitch, you should be fucking dead.
See, like, I don't know if I ever did anything I should be dead, but there are definitely things that are like, I should not have done that.
I could have been murdered so many times.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
what I mean.
Like, River Falls is safe comparatively to a lot of other places, but like the amount of times I walked across that campus by myself in the early AM hours because I wanted to sleep like in my own bed, but my boyfriend had wanted to hang out. Like, wasn't a walk of shame or anything. Like, nothing had happened. I just wanted to go home. But I'm like, the number of times I did that, like, if you look at like statistics, something probably should have happened.
Well,
to me.
and there were,
and shit did happen.
I was gonna say, while we were in school, there were
I think
incidences.
at least 2 incidences. Yeah.
Yeah, which was really just awful.
Yeah. Like, looking back, I'm like, God, I somehow got fucking lucky.
Well, when I was in Scotland, I went back to this dude's apartment who I met at the pub, and I was lucky. He was like a sweet little anime geek,
right? Exactly.
And we
You
just
did
hung
fine.
out. He he lifted up his bed because I had storage under it.
And
it was
you're
just
like, what
full
is
of
going
manga,
on?
and I was like, oh my fucking god.
Yeah. You're like, okay, I don't have too much to worry about.
See, and that was a good night, and it's not because I was particularly safe. It was because he wasn't a murderer or rapist.
Right, exactly.
That was the only
he
thing
didn't
that
do
kept me
anything to
safe.
make you unsafe.
Yes.
Okay. But so she would be with this company for the next like year until it suddenly would close down. And the horrible thing about it suddenly closing down is it left many of its performers stranded in Venice, California. Because that's where they were performing when they were like, oh, by the way, this is our last show. Okay, bye.
And they just disbanded.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
Luckily, Thomas Insay, who was a producer for the New York Motion Picture Company, was working on a Western in the rough area. So he hired the entire cast that was still there for $2,500 a week. I did not find if that was like the whole cast or if like each of them got them. I couldn't find it.
Okay.
But he basically needed like cowboy extras, and he was like, this is perfect. Like, you guys are out of work. I need the workers that have the skills you have.
Even in today's money, $2,500 in a week, I would do a lot of things for $2,500 in a week.
It must be the whole cast, though, because
that's
my
an
next
absurd
line
amount of
literally
money.
says the performers were paid $8 a week.
Okay,
so
I wouldn't do most things for $8.
I will say I forgot I meant because I had done this script like 2 weeks ago, and I was going to come back in and like do it, be like, oh, what that versus today's money, and I didn't. So I'm sure it's more than that now. But yeah,
but
they were also given like room and board in Venice. The horses were still stabled, like, so I'm sure that's where like the extra money comes in.
And at this point, they're either completely out of work or well, now they have a place to live and a job for at least a few weeks.
The thing I found funny is their mode of transportation to get to where the filming was riding the horses that like they so luckily still had with them.
Oh my God,
so that's kind of funny. Yeah, so they would all ride together 5 miles to go work because they were filming in Topanga Canyon. And then they would ride back and like board, and yeah, it was just funny. So after that, she continued working. Like they liked her skills, and you know, this was kind of like the early 1900s was very like pro-Western movies.
Oh yeah.
And so in 1912 she got signed on for her first billed role because the other one was kind of like an extra, so they her name wasn't in credits or anything.
Yeah.
She made $15 a week, so like almost double. As Ruth Rowland's sisters in a movie called Ranch Girls on a Rampage. And when I read that, I was like, oh, is this some like horror movie? No.
I'm like, it's either a horror movie or a porno.
No. I like looked it up because I was like, I'm curious. And the description made it sound like it's, like a group of girls that are like ranch hands or something. And they go to Venice Beach because it's similar to like Coney Island. And they basically just go on a bunch of rides and get chased by the cops because they're being rowdy. And I'm like, I don't know what I was expecting, but okay.
It's like a more scripted, more chase Girls Gone Wild.
No, they basically they went to an amusement park.
Yeah, but they're being rowdy and doing things that women aren't supposed to
really
do.
Weird.
And
like, it just sounded really weird. And I'm like, I'm sure for the day, maybe it was like, ooh, like look at these girls being wild, but like not in like a porn way, just like in a outside of society's role for them way.
It's like an early 1900s ranch themed version of Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, basically.
But the cops are the principal who turns out to be a pedophile.
Actually. But yeah, I was like, the word rampage made my brain go in a very different direction.
I would watch a movie called Ranch Girls Rampage, especially if it was like one of those good for her. Like that's my favorite genre of movie where a woman just fucking nails everyone to the wall and you're just like, good for her. Like American Mary is like that, where you're like, I'm a little uncomfortable, but I totally get where she's coming from.
That's awesome. So like many of the other extras, particularly like the cowboy extras or like the people who knew riding, Helen would continue to perform in rodeos between pictures she was in. Because like a lot of times there was downtime between pictures. So she would go, do a rodeo because there's apparently a lot in California. But during the second Los Angeles rodeo, which I was like, Jesus, it's only the second one, but it was 1913, she featured in what was known as a standing woman race, which I believe is just standing on the back of a horse. I didn't actually look it up. I'm just going to assume.
Even sitting on a horse is horrifying to me. Like, don't get me wrong.
Horseback riding.
Don't get me wrong. Horses, really amazing animals. I've ridden horses like in a very small capacity, where like someone's leading you around and you're technically on the horse. But they are such big, powerful animals. And I do not have enough experience with horses to know when that thing is going to curb stomp me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, did I tell you when I was walking in the woods with Egg and we were walking the cheese and the trail we were on is also a horse trail. And I picked up the dogs because I was like, these dogs are going to go fucking ape shit with these horses. The horses are going to stampede. They're going to stomp my dogs to death. They're going to stomp me to death. And they were actually like really chill. And actually my dogs were like, what the fuck is that? And like didn't bark the first time they saw them. But I just very much acknowledge that horses could murder me at any moment. Like they just have to want to.
I agree. I agree with that. But I also feel the same about cows. Like I'm not necessarily like strictly afraid of cows, but like every time back when my husband's family used to like own cows and they were always like, oh, do you want to milk them? I'm like, no, I don't fucking want, like they could kill me.
No, I'm the same way with
cows. And I'm not
cows.
okay with that.
I'm the same way with cows. My ex's stepdad had a dairy farm. And he had stories of like when a cow or a bull or something would like run at him, like trying to take him out. And he's like, well, shit, now I got to shoot it because that thing wants me dead. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. They're just really big animals.
Yeah. Like it just like both of them, like it's literally like for the same reason that they're scary. I did try to look at like what a standing woman race was, and all like the internet came up with was like a last woman standing race, which is usually like a foot race of like whoever literally is just the last one running wins. And I'm like, I don't think that's what this was. I think this was probably like, because it's specifically standing woman, I'm like, I think it's people standing on horseback. Well, and doing something.
Like we've all been to the circus and seen the people who are like standing on the back of a horse while it's galloping, and you're just like, how?
Right. But her like skill and ability so impressed like one of the people at the races that they became like her investors and offered her like a finance of like, hey, you go like do rodeos and I will like finance your travel, and we split the winnings. So yeah, he paid all of her expenses and split the winnings with her, and she did pretty well. And she actually like to the point where like he stabled her horses. So she would go out to his ranch every day to learn stuff. And here she would meet a man named Edmund Richard Hoot was his nickname.
Love it.
Gibson. And they would begin working together. They did a lot of similar things. And at a rodeo in Salt Lake City, they basically, he won all the men's things. She won all the women's things. And then together they won a relay race together. Which is super funny. And the thing that sucks about that is the promoter and the person running the rodeo skipped town. So they got fucking nothing from it.
See, nothing in the 1900s was reputable.
Yeah.
Not a goddamn thing. Because you could just fuck off to the next town and no one's going to find you.
Right. And so the two, like her and Hoot, that's what I'm going to call him because that was his nickname, became really, really good friends. Like whether or not there was more than that is kind of up for contention before a certain point. But, you know, they traveled together a lot because they got along really well. And so they literally went all over. They went to like Canada and Idaho. Like they traveled literally like wherever there were rodeos, they would go.
Just
and they would
across
go together.
North America.
Yep.
They hit the North American rodeo circuit.
Yeah, exactly. And eventually they went back to Pendleton, which is where like the investor that was helping Helen was located. And that's where Hoot was kind of stabled out of too. But they arrived a few days before what is known as the Pendleton Roundup, which was a big like rodeo thing for like the season. And what sucked is like when they got there.
Sorry.
Yes, Justin. The answer is yes.
Sorry, Kelly's husband just appeared in the doorway and started gesturing with some machine that I don't know what it is.
It's a slushie maker, and he's wondering if we want to make wine slushies.
Oh, always, yeah. Oh, my God. Yes.
Justin. Husband of mine. So there's a box down there.
Show you. I brought it back.
There's a box down there that has like fruit wine that I think would be good. Okay.
Wine slushie?
Yeah.
Yes,
This right
please.
Yeah, there's like a blueberry. I think there's a peach one in there that would be good.
Ooh, peach is
How much do you
delicious.
want me to put in?
So much.
Probably just
One
the
bottle?
bottle.
One bottle.
I mean, because there's only one bottle of each, so just do one bottle.
yeah,
So which
just
one?
The peach.
Peach.
kill the bottle.
Kill a bottle of peach.
You want to shut the door? Now that you're home, take Navi.
Thank you. Disgusting.
I know I am.
God, people loving each other.
There's a door there. Okay. So her and Hoot came back to Pendleton, and because it was just a few days before the races, they had a place to stable their horses with their investor. However, most of the rooms were already occupied, and something they did on the rodeo circuit was a lot of times they would like opt to give them to like married couples first because
Yeah.
they're like, well, you're married, like everyone else can kind of just bunk together or camp out or whatever.
Yeah.
So in, I don't know, maybe the most like 80s, early 1910s.
I'm like 1980s.
I know. I went,
There's no
I meant
cocaine involved.
1890s, and my brain dyslexia did it. But like in the early 1910s thing ever, they decided to just fucking get married so they could get a room.
You know, I like looking with today's society goggles. I'm like, that's insane. But that's actually a better reason to get married than some of the people we've covered. Also, at this time, marriage, like if it was a love match, that was great. But it had to be more than that. Like people, like especially women, they were meant to be dependent on their husbands. They were meant to be financially dependent on their husbands. So it was about what he could provide versus, oh, do I actually like this person and do they not suck?
Yeah, whereas in this case, it sounds like they were really good friends, potentially already lovers. It's kind of like hard to know that we're already like kind of on the same trajectory. Like they're both doing rodeos, doing well. They're both successful. And so like, I think it was one of those things of like, why not?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, obviously he's not going to be like, well, now you can't do this anymore. Like
Exactly,
They're
like,
kind of on the same page.
She would probably just slap him if that happened.
This is probably a much healthier marriage than most of the marriages we've got.
Potentially. But as a result, due to like, married couples getting preference, like the hotel they were trying to get board at, the landlady actually just gave them her own room. Probably as a like, oh, congratulations, happy honeymoon.
Now give me money.
Afterwards, they would go on to win enough money in the Pendleton Roundup that they were able to move to Los Angeles, California, where Hoot would work as a cowboy extra and a double for a film star known as Tom Mix for the Selig Polyscope Company. Doesn't exist anymore. Where Helen would also work for Selig, but also work for Calum Studios, also doing writing, and then eventually also moving into stunt doubling, which was very uncommon for women in this time. So fast forward to like a summer to 2 summers later, we're in 1915, and Helen landed the role of being the stunt double on a film serial, which I'll get into what that is, called The Hazards of Helen. This is literally where she gets her name. So let me say, this isn't your basic like damsel in distress, oh no, help me lady deal.
Yep.
At all. This is Helen having incompetent male like co-workers and having to save people herself. Which I was like, doesn't sound very 1915, but sure, I'm on board for it. You know, and you can find like clips of these like black and white shorts, essentially.
You know, this is such a good example, though, of that women have been, are, and want to be in control of their lives.
Oh, I get into this.
For fucking ever. And the fact that these appeal to that, probably especially for women, like it just shows that there's always been that demand. There's always been that want and drive. It's just the way it's all described to us in present day. It's like, no, women were so happy staying in the home. It's like, actually, a lot of them were fucking miserable and getting beat by their husbands.
Well, the other thing was like, this wasn't like a one-time movie. This was an 119 episode series, and she did this every damn episode. This wasn't like, oh, one movie where the girl is the badass. No, there was 119 episodes of the girl being the badass. And each episode was like a standalone story, like kind of like a series today where it's like not like a traditional like, oh, you binge it every week because like you need to know what happens. Every once in a while there was a cliffhanger, but generally like it was like the characters were the same, but each story wrapped up each episode, essentially.
It makes me think of like Saturday morning cartoons, but live action, where it's like you are following the same characters, but the problem, the action, and then the conclusion all happen in one episode. And then next week, it's a different problem, action, conclusion.
Yeah. So Shelley Stamp, who was at the time of like the interview, was a film scholar at the University of California, talks about like serials and particularly like women and doing serials, but it says, quote, serials offered viewers, young women in particular, a fantasy space to explore new modes of femininity. Office workers, retail clerks, factory laborers were the base for serials for what like they can tell. Like obviously there's no hard and fast way to track that. They didn't track that back then. But they looked up to these women who got called serial queens, which I love.
I love that.
For fresh ideas about womanhood that they could emulate in small but meaningful ways in their own lives. So like, yeah, maybe you're not going out and like saving people all the time, but like, oh, Helen like stood up to these people. Maybe I can do that in my life. You know, like.
Well, it's like women want to see themselves represented in the media. Also, if we ever do a film spinoff where then we can talk about how fucked up the Wizard of Oz movie behind the scenes was, it's going to be called Serial Queens.
Yeah.
It writes itself.
That. So what I also love is that, so this is during the time that, suffragettes are still pushing to earn the right to vote, but on screen, yeah, these serial queens are the mistresses of their own fate. They're able to show women that what they can be. And they succeeded both personally and professionally. There were women racing cars and riding motorcycles. They would save themselves instead of being saved by others, as well as rescuing others. And The Hazards of Helen wasn't the only one doing it, but it was the longest running one that did. And these women that were like the heroines would often, when interviewed, dismiss doubters and just like really embrace this role. And originally, the title character was actually run by was originally a woman named Helen Holmes, and Helen Gibson, our character, was her stunt double.
Okay.
So, yeah, Helen Holmes was the lead role for the first 49 episodes of this series, and Helen Gibson was originally her stunt double, given the chance to replace her in originally two full-length episodes, as well as any stunt that was deemed like too dangerous, usually by the studio executives that were like, or not, the insurers that were like, maybe you don't want your star doing this.
Yeah, because if they break their leg, you're going to have to write that into the next several episodes.
Yeah,
and that's
or
going to be
replace
a whole
her
thing.
entirely.
Exactly.
So she would get for the full episode she got $35 a week.
All right, moving up in the world.
And for the stunts, I couldn't find like a price she got paid, but probably less than that because she's not like the role. But one of the stunts she did when she was still a stunt double, not the leading role, was leaping from the roof of a train station onto a moving train.
That's so hot.
But remember, this is at a time that they didn't have the technology to do these kinds of stunts that we did now.
Like, she was not wired.
She was
to
not
a
wired.
crane
There
or
was no
anything.
harnesses. There's no mattresses. Like, maybe there's a mattress to catch her fall, but probably not.
She is
There's no
actually
CG.
jumping.
She is actually jumping onto a moving train. Literally, they had to measure the distance between the station roof to the train. She had to practice the jump with the train standing still. They had to time the train not only to the camera, but to her jump. They had to calculate what the acceleration was. Everything had to be timed down to the second. Like, the math and the timing that had to go into this would make my brain explode. But that's how they did stunts back then, because that's what they had.
There used to be a show on that it was like called Movie Science or like Movie Magic Science or something like that, where they broke down stunts that were done in movies and if they were realistic, but then how they were able to make the stunt possible.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it is like, oh, they have like a ripcord at the right time, or they're not actually jumping onto the object you think they're jumping on. They're jumping onto something soft. Yeah, that's not the case for these old stunts.
But this makes me think, I can't remember if it was Charlie Chaplin, but it was one of those like silent film era stars. And there's this really famous scene where he's standing in front of this house and all four sides of the house fall apart.
I think it's Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, and they fall out. And the front one falls on him, but the open window at the top of the house
placed,
falls over him so he's not hurt. And it seems like, oh yeah, that would be possible, but like the amount of math and calculation that went in, like,
well, and it was very much like, you have to stand in this exact spot and not move.
Yeah, and it wasn't
because
like
you will get hit by a fucking house.
Yeah, and it wasn't like a big window, but like again, the math and the measurement and like what had to go into that.
Of these actors to put themselves in harm's way.
Yeah.
And that's exactly who Helen Gibson, our main character, was, because she did all the training, she learned the math or let other people do the math. And when the time came, she leapt without hesitation, landed the way she was supposed to. But the train's motion made her roll toward the end of the car. And she actually talked about this after, and she was like, well, I can make this a little more dramatic. Like, she was fine. But she caught hold of the air vent and was fine. Like, she was fine. But to make it, like, intentionally make it, like, this was a decision she made. To make it more dramatic, she was like, oh, I'm going to let my body dangle over the edge of the train because I know it's going to make a better effect on screen. And I'm like, you're insane.
This is a woman, though, who knows her body and trusts what she's capable of. Like I know earlier we were saying like she was kind of reckless, and like
She still is, but
there's an element of recklessness in there, and maybe, you know, arrogance almost, but it's earned. Like she obviously knows that she can do these things, and while there's always the risk of something going wrong, she's like, no, I know if I dangle my body off this moving train, I'm gonna be able to hold on. Now, a million other things could have gone wrong in that, but this is someone who she knows her body and she knows what she's capable of, and that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's insane because it's just like people have kind of like, analyzed the footage and stuff. And it does sound like she probably got more injured than she said she did. Because like she came away and like afterward was talking. I was like, oh, I just got a few bruises. Like it was fine. People are probably like, she might have broken like a rib or two.
Jesus Christ.
But she was fine for the most part. And so this is from her interview after. Wait, I'm trying to like double check. No, this is someone after the fact. It's a man named Arthur Wise, and it's called Stunting in Cinema. So it's like about stunts, but this is what it says. It says, the real difficulty of this stunt lay not in the leap itself, since she had practiced it on a stationary train and it was fine, but in the timing of the leap. Such stunts require an inbuilt awareness from the stunt person of the speed of the moving object. And during the leap, you have to kind of time where the object is going to be as you're moving in the spatial relationship between takeoff and landing. And it is quite possible to imagine a leap from a static takeoff on top of a moving train in which the stuntman aims to land at a specific point on the carriage roof. Yet, in fact, because of the speed of the train, ends up landing in the gap between two carriages, which he didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. It seems that in such a leap, the safest place is to aim for the gap itself, because then if the train is moving, you're guaranteed to miss that gap. However, Helen Gibson had a sensitivity to spatial relationships between objects and motion, and she did really well, and that's not a gift that all stuntmen share. So, like, this person is saying, like, looking at her stunts, she had this, like, innate ability to be able to time her jumps that a lot of stuntmen didn't have. Again, and she was just really good at it.
She knows what her body can do, and like, okay, if I do this, this is what's going to happen. Yeah. And that like that kind of intuition is something that typically only comes with experience, and you got to get hurt a lot before you develop something like that. Oh yeah. Like a lot of things have to go wrong for you to realize, okay, well, this is how not to do it.
Right. And so, she did so well in her stunts, and then in those two full features she did, that when Helen Holmes and her husband left the Hazards of Helen, the owner of the company like approached her and was like, hey, we want to keep this series going. And like, one, you're already doing a lot of the stunts, but two, like you would be perfect for the role. And she obviously accepted and would go on to fight robbers and stop runaway trains and jump from moving cars and wrestle bad guys, all while wearing a corset, probably.
God damn it.
Whereas I'm over here and I stub my toe and I need 3 days to fucking recover, she's leaping onto moving trains.
So I was doing dishes, and there weren't scissors, there weren't a knife. I just banged my finger hard enough against some glass Tupperware that it cut me.
Oh yeah, I have this random cut too that I'm like, I don't even know where I got it.
And I was like, I kept washing it. I was like,
exactly. I'm like, I am not built to be a stunt woman. Like, in my younger days, I thought about it, and I'm like, I don't like pain.
That's one of those things.
I like some pain because I get tattoos, but like, I don't like that. Like, the potential for breaking my bones. Yeah.
Well,
it's the reason I never played rugby.
Again, it's the whole feeling of like being invincible. Like there were so many like physical things I did or could do when I was younger, and like if I had trained for this and continued and like kept up, like, oh, I know I can do these things, I could probably do them as an adult. I didn't though. So now when I take Q to the trampoline park, I'm very careful about bouncing, because between all the trampolines are these hard barriers that you can walk across to get from place to place. And all I can see in my head is me going up and coming down real hard on one of those barriers and my knees going up inside my torso.
Exactly.
I actually, the last time I took her, I did they've got one of those like vertical walls, like an American
where
Ninja
you, like,
Warrior.
run up it.
Yeah. And I like just missed the bar and I went fucking down. And my hip for like 3 days was like, you bitch.
Right. I'm like, I sit wrong and my knee fucking hurts.
Yeah. Even doing some of there's like climbing stuff and hanging, there's a bunch of stuff
I've never
there.
been there, but I think it would be, I keep saying, I keep telling my sister she should come down and like me and her will bring the kids. Cause
they would love it. They would absolutely love it. It is a lot of fun, but it's like the next day I was like, oh, I haven't used these muscles in a while. I'm like, why do I bother going to the gym if everything's going to hurt the next day?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but I'm not at the gym climbing rope ladders, falling down vertical walls, and jumping feet in the air.
Yeah. So Helen Holmes left after 49 episodes, and The Hazards of Helen continued on for another 60 episodes. But with Rose Gibson at the head, except the studio asked that she change her name to Helen, like legally change her name to Helen. And she was fine with it, so she did. So therefore, it is Helen Gibson.
It's like Annie Londonderry, who had to change her last name to the brand of bicycle.
Yeah.
Which is so weird.
I will say, though the women played the same character and they asked her to change her name to Helen, and they did closely resemble each other, the studio did not cover up the fact that the actresses were changing, and they did give like Helen Gibson full credit. So like kudos to the studio, because God knows studios, especially back then, definitely did that, where like you think of like the trope of Singing in the Rain, where it was like one person singing behind a curtain because like they weren't as pretty. That was a thing that legitimately happened.
Okay.
And so the studio very well could have just been like, oh no, we didn't change actresses. But no, they were fully like, yeah, we're changing actresses, but like it's the same character.
It sounds like
they
did more of like a Bewitched, Roseanne, Fresh Prince, where
it's like we're keeping the same storyline with the same characters. The person playing the character is just different.
And is noticeably different.
Yeah, apparently, like I've seen pictures of both women and they do look similar. Like this, honestly, like of all the times the studio could have tried to pull that, this is one that might have actually worked, but I'm really glad that they didn't. But
if they're going to make this girl change her fucking name, they better credit her.
But what was great is, like essentially Helen Gibson just stepped up because like Helen Holmes was already famous and she was going to continue to be famous. But now instead of having, one serial queen, they had two, even though Helen Holmes went on to like kind of do her own thing. But yeah, exactly. Like the studio kind of knew like, okay, if we try to pull like a bait and switch and not mention it, this is going to blow up in her face. But yeah, gave the audiences one more serial queen to kind of like idolize.
I love that.
And the audiences did that. Like they absolutely gravitated toward Helen Gibson. And also like at this time, Hoot was also kind of doing his own thing and he was getting pretty famous. Like he was starting to get his own starring roles. And so like a lot of fan magazines would both like talk about them individually, but also talk about them together.
Well, they're this power couple.
Exactly.
They're this badass power couple where like their wedding, I bet people are imagining their wedding was like just full of stunts. Like she does backflips down the
and it's
aisle.
like, no, they got married so they could get a room at the inn.
He jumps out of like a fucking helicopter and parachutes down.
It's like the opposite of like the Jesus story where they couldn't get a room in an inn. He was born in a manger and they were like, we can't get a room. You want to get married so we can?
Yep.
But this is when she kind of started earning that most daring actress in pictures. And she lived up to her billing. She would make, like I said, when she took over this role, she kind of started not necessarily fighting, but like pressuring executives and the insurance company to let her do her own stunts. She was like, I was already doing them before. I know how to do them. Like, you don't need to get me a stunt double. One, because especially female stunt doubles at the time, were not wide. Like, she's known as potentially one of the first female stunt doubles in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, who are you going to get to do these stunts?
Yeah.
Like, but also like, I want to do them myself. And so, yeah, she lived up to the billing of the most daring actress. And after doing like quite a few more episodes and stuff. She wrote a story built around a risky stunt that she really wanted to do.
Oh my God, I love her.
And pitched it to the executives as like one of the episodes of, you know, The Hazards of Helen. And she had a problem, not the executives per se, it was convincing the insurance man, because the stunt that she wanted to do was even more daring than the train stunt she already did. So what she wanted to do was she wanted to ride in standing atop a pair of horses, grab onto a rope that was dangling from a bridge, and then swing onto a moving train. And then from there, she would capture a gang of like bandits that had stolen the train, da-da-da-da-da.
You lost me at standing
Oh,
on
God,
two
yeah.
horses at the same time.
It's a thing. Like, it's definitely been done.
I can barely rollerblade without eating concrete. Like,
But if I have to move the picture because I put it in the wrong place. She got to do it. Because like the whole thing, like the main problem with all of this, because this was her idea, remember, the main problem was, literally the insurance adjuster for like the company was like, this is a really big risk. Like, I don't know if we should do this.
well, he's like, we're definitely going to have to pay out on this because you're definitely going to,
exactly.
at worst, die, at best, get severely injured.
And that's exactly it. Like, few people, even like today, wouldn't blame this guy. Like, this wasn't like a guy holding a woman back. This was like a guy being like, this is just a bad business decision.
You know, during a time where you could take out insurance policies on fucking anyone, murder them, and collect the money.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad that there's at least an insurance person who's like, this is actually really risky and maybe not a great idea. And maybe you shouldn't be insured for this situation.
And like, part of it was sexism, because there's always part of it, because like this is 1916 and a significant segment of American society didn't think women were even capable of casting a vote, let alone driving a car, let alone standing on the back of two horses and jumping onto a train. Also, this is a time where OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, does not exist.
Nope.
And there were few, if any, organizations prioritizing actors or stunt people's welfare. And this is also a time where if she did break enough bones to do damage, like I already said, for the other Helen, they would just replace her.
Yeah. Well, and this is during a time where...
But there's still an insurance person being like, I don't know if we should.
Well, and this is during a time where actors are tradable commodities. They're owned by studios and they're contracted to perform a certain number of movies.
Oh, yeah.
They can be loaned out to other studios.
Yeah, it's so complicated.
Their welfare is a complete non-issue. Like so many actors at this time, they were on speed and a diet of coffee and cigarettes to stay thin. They did not sleep. And then if they needed to sleep, they were given sleeping pills and they were given uppers to wake them up, and working like insane days. Like no one gave a shit about these people as long as they performed.
Exactly. Apparently this one person did, though, or at least cared enough about their bottom dollar. But
I was going to say, it feels more financially motivated.
She convinced enough people that she did the jump. And there is actually a picture of her hanging off of the rope, like during one of the standstill shoots in my notes, if you scroll down.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And this jump, she did actually like land not quite right. Like she did it and it's in the film and everything like that. But she did strike herself against the cab in such a way when she was falling that she got injured enough that like doctors were like, you need to like spend a week in like a bed, whether it's like the infirmary or wherever.
Like, but you're on bed rest.
She was just like, meh. And she literally said, quote, "Life is just cluttered with perils." Like, this is a person that I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, just...
Here's the thing. I love her and I totally support her. I don't think I'm ever going to fully understand where she's coming from, though. Also,
but she didn't get to be the film industry's first professional stunt woman by letting stuff like that go.
Right. And I do want to point out, and I'll post this picture in our Instagram. This photo.
This is like one of the still practices. So she's hanging off of the rope.
Yep. Above the train.
Like being directed by someone. I think it looks like a child. So like it must be like a stand-in of like, this is where you want to land.
Yeah.
You know.
But my point is, okay, say the train is not moving. And she's just hanging from this rope, and all she has to do is let go and land.
Also, this is like a train trestle bridge. And remember, she rode in to get onto this rope on the back, standing on the back of 2 horses.
Yeah. But I mean, even if it was just this photo where she's hanging from the rope, the train is still, she just has to drop down onto a stationary train.
Looks so chill.
I'm like, that height would wreck my hips. That would destroy my knees.
I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like,
I'd be like, this is how I die.
This wouldn't be me, needing to recover because I landed wrong. This would be me needing to recover because I can't walk.
Yeah.
Because my knee hurts too bad.
Like, I've fallen out of enough trees in my childhood to know that, my body can only take so much, even when I was young. Now, my joints are basically chalk. I have had 2 hip surgeries. Like, I have arthritis. I'm a fucking mess. I get along really well with the 80 and 90-year-old women at the gym, though, because we just swap like hip problem and back problem stories. Like, oh my God, I can tell it's going to rain. My hip is acting up today. Oh yeah, don't you know? They're like my best friends.
That's really funny.
They always compliment my dresses too. Like, they're all very sweet.
But I think that is like the thing that's just like, it's so kind of funny that like, it's just so different. But like, I think it is one of those things, like if that's what you want and you go after it, great. But the studio was so impressed both with her writing and her ability to perform the stunt that they did raise her salary to $50 a week. So they did recognize what she was doing. So she would go on to continue performing in The Hazards of Helen for the rest of the 60 to 69 episodes of its run until the series ended. After which they tried to produce another like serial run, this time called The Daughter of Daring, with her in the starring role. And another stunt that is like really cool appeared in this one, where she was on a motorcycle and it was a full speed motorcycle chase after a runaway freight train. There's a big thing with like runaway trains during this era. Like, and I remember that about like silent films in general.
Well, when you were talking about the damsel in distress, I'm like, yeah, she's tied to a train track by a dude in a top hat with a curly mustache. Trains were everything. And they should be a bigger deal. We really should, as a country, invest in high-speed rail, but that's definitely not going to happen in the next 4 years.
Definitely didn't happen when Helen was alive.
I mean, at least they were into trains when she was alive. I don't think they had the technology for high-speed rail, but they were definitely into rail travel.
Oh God, yeah, they were.
Yeah.
So this stunt was not only a full-speed motorcycle chase, but this was, she would ride through a wooden gate, like a closed wooden gate, shattering the gate, ride up onto the station platform, and then like launch off the station into a boxcar. And one of the tricks with this was like, one, there's a little bit of like camera trickery of where they film it at a slower speed so that when they play it at like film speed, it looks faster. But also, yeah, like this is another one that like your timing on this has to be perfect.
I have anxiety.
Oh God, I know. Like, I remember writing that and I'm like, oh, I don't like that. But you might be wondering, like, how did people in the 1950s to like 1917 react to this? Because like,
wait,
this is
1915
to 1917.
Okay, you said 1950s.
Oh,
I was like, wait.
No, I said 15s.
Sorry. Okay, 1915 to 1917.
Yep. Like,
okay.
How are the audiences reacting to this?
Yeah.
Like, and obviously, like, we know, yes, that these these queens were doing really well, but like, what did people actually think?
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially like these high octane stunts, like, because it sounds like kind of once she took over, it sounds like it ramped up a bit, you know, like,
well, she's like planning her own fucking stunts.
Exactly.
And she's like, oh, I know I can do this.
But people loved it. And she became, like I said, like not only like the first like true, like she became like the first true like female stunt performer in Hollywood, but also the highest paid stunt performer of her time.
Oh, full stop. No gender
That's what it
clarification.
But did this come with lasting fame or fortune, Emily?
Probably not.
No.
Because we have never heard of her.
I was going to say, oh, you sweet summer child, if you said yes. But like,
You know
no.
I wouldn't.
Because, yeah, despite her contributions to film and stunt work, her career faded kind of as like the silent era ended. Because, unfortunately, as the talkies did start, you did kind of see women fall more back into those traditional gender roles.
Well, and I can see, especially with silent films, because you want to limit the dialogue as much as possible. It's all about the
Because
action.
a stunt is good.
It's the what people are doing is telling the story versus what they're saying. But then when you're able to get voices on the film,
Yeah.
it can be a little more of a intrapersonal storytelling style.
exactly.
Because like think of a black and white film where people are speaking. They're like in a room having a conversation.
Yeah.
That wouldn't go very well with the silent film era. You know, that was more like you have to show, not tell. And now they're getting to lean more on the telling and the verbal storytelling versus the physical storytelling.
Yeah. But yeah, so, and then but also like the Callum, the people that had been producing like these things were also now working in single reel films, which was also in decline. Like, you know, it tended to be more like feature length films and stuff like that. And rather than risk financial failure by producing feature films, they were just like, this is not the game we're in.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And so they kind of just folded and they sold themselves to Vitagraph, which is just another company. Universal Studios did offer her a 3-year contract for like 2 to 5, for 2 reel and 5 reel pictures. And so she did that for a little while. But when that ended, she took another one, but she kind of was falling back more into background roles and like not being the star. And the second contract she took was with Capitol Film Company, but they ended up going out of business within like a year. It was like a really rough time in the film industry, which makes sense because like, yeah, they're changing what film is at that time. And so it's like, if you can't do that, you're not going to succeed.
It is a huge shift in the film industry. And like in modern times, I think the only thing that we can compare it to is like CG becoming big. But even that, it just kind of expanded your options. This was you can do this or you can't do this.
Yeah.
You know, there were people who were just completely made obsolete because the medium essentially changed.
Exactly. During this time, Helen was also unceremoniously dumped by her husband, Hoot, who I haven't mentioned in a while.
Bitch!
But so he had like kind of gone, this is 1920, so he had gone off to war and come back, but his career was still going strong because there was a big demand for male leads still.
Yep.
And I think one, like it was, you know, yeah, it was kind of like we talked about before, like his career was going somewhere and hers weren't, and they were on different paths. She also kind of got really annoyed and hated being identified as Mrs. Hoot Gibson, so she was kind of okay with it. And she kind of accepted it in a very dramatic way, and I kind of love her for it because in the next census, so before their marriage went through, there was like a U.S. census. He still listed himself as married because they hadn't gotten divorced yet. Because they had separated but not divorced. So he still listed himself as married. She listed herself as a widow.
Oh my God.
Which I'm like, that's kind of funny. Like, she's like, no, I'm going to be fucking dramatic about this. But yeah, it's funny.
That is shade that is on the historic record.
Yeah, exactly.
I see. You know
like,
what?
He's definitely still out there and around, but she's like, you are dead to me. So therefore, I am a widow.
There are so many reasons that doing the census and participating in it is important. This is all one of those reasons is to start throwing historically recorded shade.
Exactly.
Because there's going to be some bitches with a podcast in 100 years who are going to be telling the story of how you said your ex was dead on the census.
Exactly. So not one to sit around doing nothing while the film industry is in decline. She actually created her own studio It is called the Helen Gibson Productions, and she, with limited...
I'm sorry. Okay, Kelly's husband tried to be like really smooth about
the
this.
pugs ruined it.
Okay, he brought us in wine smoothies. And he was like, he's like, don't say anything, don't acknowledge me.
Yeah.
He comes in, puts them down. You don't even hear the
Yeah, I was
glasses
gonna
at
like
the table.
get out, and then the dogs are like, woo!
We're both
in the
just
room.
staring. We're like staring at the smoothies, and we're staring at him. We're like, I'm very overwhelmed right now. So
Yeah, sorry about that. But
thank you to our tech intern,
guy,
our
who
tech
also
guy.
made us wine smoothies.
He made us smoothies in other episode. It was like a coconut thing. Yeah, it was really
it was
good. Yeah.
He got a new toy. That was a smoothie maker. So he's
I will say,
so.
I do love when Justin gets new toys and I get to benefit from them.
right. It's great. Like smoked meats. It's great.
Oh my God, when you guys got a fryer, other than the fact that I realized the oil was getting in the air and making my eyes burn after a while.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it so much.
It was because
it was cool.
It was really cool. It was really yummy. It was one of those things where it's like you get a new toy and you want to use it a lot. It's like, okay, we've overused this.
Yeah.
Like my eyes, just existing in this home
It's
is
horrible,
making my
yeah.
eyes burn. But the pickle chips were delicious.
I know. We'll have to do that
the
again sometime.
mozzarella sticks. It was all the like best pub foods that we were throwing in
it
that
was
thing.
So good. But yeah, so she created her own production studio so that she could produce her own films so she could do her stunts, which I'm like, I fucking love that.
Yes, bitch.
So she was the first film she was gonna produce was a film called No Man's Woman, which I was like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, if that's not a shot at your ex-husband. Which was, a Western melodrama about a kind-hearted dance hall hostess rescuing a rancher's child. And I'm like, that doesn't really sound like something that lives up to No Man's Woman, but okay. However, like the money she had.
Well, because she's her own woman and she's doing
she's
things.
rescuing things like a child. Yeah.
Oh, it's not her kid.
Exactly.
She doesn't have to
true.
fucking give a shit about this kid.
So unfortunately, her money and the funding for it gave out before the picture was finished. So she sold it off, and the film was eventually released by another studio. They did retitle it to 9 Points of the Law, but so unfortunately, her work continued to decline because studios increasingly relied upon what became a very entrenched practice of hiring men in wigs to perform stunts for women. Because that was a thing. So stuntmen were already very common on sets. Stunt women were not. And if actresses became highly paid and like very popular, they didn't want to like
risk them
damage
being
their goods.
I mean,
as
really,
horrible as that sounds.
That's exactly it. Like if a director smacks an actress around,
fine.
that's totally fine. But we can't have her getting seriously injured
Exactly.
during a stunt.
But because, they didn't want to like have to go out and find a woman to perform the stunts, they would hire a male to do their stunts in a wig. And it is worth noting that as recently as 2020, a full century later, stunt performers are still calling for an end to a practice of what they call wigging, because it is still, it's not as common, but it is still a fairly common practice to hire a male stunt performer. I feel like we're seeing less of it now. Because one, we're seeing more women that want to do their own stunts, but two, we're seeing more stunt women in general.
Yeah.
But it is still a pretty intense practice, which is shitty.
I was about to come up here and play devil's advocate because I'm like, there aren't a lot of stunt women to meet the need of all these studios.
At that time, I can I'm more understanding.
I'm like,
in 2020, no, fuck that.
No, that is fucking ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. Have you seen those videos online where it's like a gymnast performing some move and then a stunt woman doing the same move except falling on her back and stuff? And the joke is that stunt people are like, part of their job is to fall and get beat down, and that's a joke. But there's so many stunt women. Like, I don't know, there's so a lot, and they're badass. And I'm like, dude, even that fall, I'm like, that would put me out for a week.
Exactly.
I'd be like, I need my Advil and my ibuprofen and my ice pack.
Yeah. So she would
sleep wrong, and my neck is
I get a migraine and I'm out.
destroyed.
Because, yeah, that's what happens. I sleep wrong. Like, my pillow gets a little too soft. I don't fluff it right. And my neck is like, oh, by the way, you slept wrong. Here's a, like, debilitating headache for 2 days.
Years ago, I had a really bad, like, crick in my neck.
Yeah.
Where I was literally bedridden for a whole day. And it just kept, like, seizing up. And it hurt so much, I would just start screaming. And I was living in an apartment building at the time. And I'm shocked no one called the cops because it did sound like I was being abused. And so I took some of like the more hardcore painkillers I had left over from a hip surgery and just like tried to zonk out because I was in so much pain. I couldn't move anything, let alone my neck. The next day I went to the chiropractor. Dude, it was night and day. Dude, tweaked my neck and I was like, oh my God, it's gone. The problem is gone. What the fuck? And I know chiropractics come with their own risks and I'm not saying everyone should do it, but it kind of saved me in that instance. But yeah, that was just from sleeping wrong and like having like, I don't know, fucked up muscles and back problems. Like
it's insane. But so Helen would go on to continue getting like roles here and there. Unfortunately, like after her next big role, which was in a movie called The Wolverine, and like the company really liked her and they were going to put her on the payroll. She got appendicitis.
Damn it.
And ended up in the hospital battling she got an infection.
Peritonitis.
Yep, thank you. And the studio ended up replacing her because she was out for too long, as we said happens.
Damn it.
And after her recovery, unfortunately, like yeah, she'd kind of been out of the spotlight too long. That, you know, she did keep getting roles, but it was independent companies and stuff like that. And it was little roles here and there that she ended up having to, and then she got injured again. And it ended up her back in the hospital, and she ended up having to sell like most of her furniture and jewelry and cars.
Jesus. Well, and appendicitis, that's not even a stunt related injury.
That's just like bad luck.
That's just your appendix has decided to riot against your own body. Like of all the shit she's doing, appendicitis is what takes her out.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, that's like Steve Irwin getting killed by a stingray. Like no one saw that coming.
Right. She would get some like personal appearances when, you know, her movie previously named No Man's Woman and The Wolverine were in theaters. She would also kind of go back to her roots and start like performing in rodeos again. And she actually did get a job trick riding in 1924 with the Ringling Brothers and the Barnum and Bailey circuses. So like those are huge names. And she participated in like their actual show and their after show for 2.5 years. And so like she did find a way to make her earnings, but yeah, she wasn't where she had been. She did return to Hollywood and begin stunt doubling for like Ethel Barrymore and other top stars of the time. And
is that Drew Barrymore's mom?
I think so. She's a very famous like talkies era.
You keep
woman.
reading because I've heard her dad's name said before because he was
like she's
a train wreck of a person.
Ethel Barrymore is like one of like the first women of film.
I'm gonna look it up. You keep talking.
Okay. But yeah, so she would stunt double for like kind of those higher paid actresses and things like that, and a lot of uncredited or stunt bits. But she would keep doing different things, and she would eventually marry a man named Clifton Johnson.
So she is from the notable Barrymore acting family.
Yeah.
Yep. So she's
she like a grandma.
She's the great aunt of actress Drew Barrymore.
I was like, I know she like obviously she's in the line. That's not a super common like for last name, but yeah.
That family's been in show business for fucking ever.
So Clifton had been a chief gunner in the Navy, and in 1940 he asked to be active duty.
Wait, sorry, who?
Her new husband. She got remarried.
Oh shit, sorry.
In 1935, she married a man.
The Barrymores.
In 1935, she married Clifton Johnson, who worked for the studios as an electrician and had been a gunner in the Navy previously. And then when World War II rolled around, he was like, "Put me in, coach."
Okay,
so he went to war, and when he was at war, she kind of just carried on doing her thing. Because why not?
God, that was just a thing that women were dealing with for not like The time between World War I and World War II is not actually that long. It's like she's
No.
had 2 husbands fighting 2 world wars.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are probably people who had husbands also, like even the same husband fighting
it's
both
fighting
conflicts.
Oh, yeah,
like,
exactly. Like, if you were married at just the right time.
yeah. Or even if your husband fought in World War I and then you married him and then he served in World War II.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
that's just so crazy to think about, that there are people who are like double World War veterans.
Yeah. So in 1951, Universal came out with a movie called The Hollywood Story, which was like a movie about silent film stars. So she got to be in that alongside a lot of other silent film stars. And she was literally only in one scene. She got $55 for it. But what was really cool is her and like other actors and actresses from the times. It was actually like, I think it was 2 actors and 2 actresses, and she was one of the 2. For the premiere, the Academy Award theaters brought them to Melrose Avenue and gave them each a plaque, like in the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, that said, quote, "For your outstanding contribution to the art and science of motion pictures, for the pleasure you have brought to millions over the world, and for your help in making Hollywood the film capital of the world." So she was like one of like 4 or 5 silent film stars that like got this honor, which I think is really, really cool.
I'm really glad that she was a part of that, because there are a lot of, like, I mean, there were so many notable silent film stars who are kind of relegated to the silent film era. You know, they maybe didn't transition into talkies and things like that.
Exactly.
I mean, she did transition, just not like
Not
super
well,
not super successfully. So
Which,
I'm glad
kind of makes sense. She
was
has one of
recognized.
those personalities that, like, I think for the era just didn't fit with what they were doing, which is shitty. But she continued to take character parts and do extra work until the couple would move to Lake Tahoe. They would try to get into the real estate business. It wouldn't go well. And they would move back to Panorama City in California, which I was like, all right. It's in the San Fernando Valley.
Okay.
And then she would suffer a slight stroke, which would not end her life, but would leave her like kind of unable to do a lot of things she used to. However, she would have one last role in 1961 in a movie called The Man Who Shot Liberty Vance. She was 69 years old at the time.
Nice. 69 is her lucky number.
Exactly.
I'm just going to say.
She would officially retire from like Hollywood and motion pictures in 1962. And she had been in the motion picture industry long enough that they actually did give her a pension, which was $200 a month plus whatever she was getting from Social Security. So that's awesome.
That is shocking to me.
Right?
That is truly shocking to me.
Oh, God, yeah. Like, people have to fight for like other pensions, but they're like, yeah, you can have this. And it's like,
well,
wait,
and it's not from like a specific studio. It's just, hey, you've
it's
been
just, like,
working
the
in
motion
Hollywood.
picture. Yeah, it's insane.
I'm sorry, actors.
I can almost guarantee you that doesn't exist anymore.
No, 100%. Actors were so used and abused and thrown away once they were no longer
Maybe
popular.
that's exactly it. If they're like, you lasted long enough, like, but
they were like, wow, we really tried to kill you and destroy your life, and you are still going.
The couple would move to Oregon, a little town called Roseburg, where she would spend her later years in relative like quiet. She would do fishing and like just kind of hanging out with her husband.
I also love that Rose was her birth name,
know,
and now
I was like,
she's in
that's kinda
Roseburg.
cute.
I'm like, oh my God, we've come full circle.
She would give the occasional interview, but otherwise lived like a relatively like well-earned retired life. Helen Gibson would die of heart failure following a stroke in 1977 at the age of 85.
Jesus.
And my favorite quote that I found from her, which I put at the end, was, quote, "I certainly do get angry when I hear someone say, I bet she didn't do that herself."
Dude, if I was riding 2 horses and grabbing a rope and then jumping on a moving train and someone was like, she didn't really do that, I would be fucking livid. I would like make it my life's mission. I'm like, get out here, get over here.
Exactly,
I'm going to
like,
do it for you right now.
We're going to do this at the same time. We'll see how well you do versus how well I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, she clearly like opened the door for stunt women and just like actresses in general. And there was a book released this year that I found out like as I was doing this story. So it's not like I did not do this story because I read the book. I was doing this story and then I found out about the book, and it's on my to be read because I have other books that I'm currently reading for the podcast specifically, actually. But I wanted to like shout it out at the end here. It's called Daughter of Daring, the trick riding, train leaping, road racing life of Helen Gibson, Hollywood's first stunt woman, by Mallory O'Meara. And it's definitely on like my to be read list, but I wanted to give it a shout out in case people want to know more about Helen. Cause like she clearly lived a very like intense, high octane life.
You know what I love is there are so many incredible like historical authors that are women who are, and don't get me wrong, they're incredible men too, but this is not about them. We're a women's history podcast. You know what you signed up for, that are re-examining old stories and then being like, the way this story has been told is inherently misogynistic, or this person's story hasn't been told because of the patriarchy, systemic erasure, all of those things. And I really, really fucking love that so many more of these books are coming out that are highlighting like obscure women from history, or, hey, you think you know this story, you fucking don't. You know, it's like The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. That is a true fucking masterpiece. Like, the fact that that woman has written any other books is shocking to me, because that was like decades long.
Oh, right.
You know, and she got involved with the family, and it was like, but it was so important to tell the story.
Yeah.
And the author respected that. And so, again, I love that. I love that there are women who are actively seeking out these stories of other women who haven't been told, you know, because we know they're out there. We know women existed in these spaces. They were active members of their own destiny. And it's just that we do not have their stories. And sometimes the best way to get that story told is for a writer to do all of that legwork, all that really, really hard research, go in the archives and tell it in a succinct way.
Yeah.
Like Angela Shea, I would have literally never heard of her had it not been for the book written about her and the Minnesota asylums.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's crazy.
And it's because this person did so much intense research. So Mallory O'Meara doing the Lard's work, doing Ruby Rubin's work.
So that is Helen Gibson. But who are you whining about?
So that was a really fucking intense story.
It was very long. I'm sorry.
No, it was good. The story was almost as high octane as her life. And I say that while sitting in a recording studio and not jumping onto a moving train. So today I am whining about Jazzy Collins, or as I call her, Trans Disabilibabe.
That's a mouthful, but I love it.
So there's actually this yearly, it's in Minneapolis. It's a yearly like performance of disabled performers.
Okay.
Doing different things. It's really interesting. It's all about highlighting, you know, people with disabilities, their art, what they can do, you know, how they maybe even incorporate their disabilities into their performance. And that's where I got the term Disabilibabe. I'm like, oh my God, because they have stickers that say that. I'm like, I love that. I fucking love that. So I kind of felt bad that we shortchanged listeners during Pride Month through no fault of our own.
Yeah.
No fault of our own. And with July being Disability Pride Month and Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, I was really looking for a woman to cover who intersected, you know, the LGBTQ plus community, the disability community, and even like, you know, mental health. And like this story isn't super heavy on mental health, but a lot of it is very implied. And after very little Googling, like a shockingly small amount of Googling, I found Jazzy Collins.
Okay.
So everyone get ready for this absolute triple threat. So Jazzy Collins was born on September 24th, 1958 in Memphis, Tennessee. She was assigned male at birth. Her mother was just a teenager when she gave birth, and that probably didn't vibe super well with her strict Baptist family. Like, they were like strict Southern Baptists.
Yeah.
And like, if you live in the United States, you know that's a vibe and you do not fuck around with it. Unfortunately, Jazzy's childhood was tumultuous at best. She did spend time in foster care where she was abused, which is just absolutely tragic, because for a child to go into foster care, that's supposed to be getting them out of an abusive situation and into a more healthy and stable one. The fact that she was abused within the institution that was supposed to help her is just like really disgusting.
Yeah.
But before I keep going, I'm just going to say I really struggled to find like specific details about Jazzy, despite her being a more contemporary person.
Okay.
A lot of the articles I read seemed to kind of quote and requote the same things. So she spent time in foster care where she was abused. That was like the extent I was able to find on it. I would have expanded in an appropriate way if I could, and I'm not trying to skip over the trauma she experienced. So as a teenager, Jazzy attended and graduated from Job Corps, which was a program that provided free education and vocational training. And with this training, she found work as a construction worker and a hospital orderly. And then just at first I was like, yes, girl, get it. And like, not to deny her trans identity, which she does transition quite a bit later in life. But I was like, oh my God, she's such a badass in like the 1950s or 60s, a woman contractor. She's still presenting as male. So I was like, oh yeah, there is that. Which is, like, it's still badass, but sorry, my notes like skipped all the way to the bottom.
Oh, don't worry,
and
it happens.
My whole first page is just the Hamilton Sophia Flores rap. So I'm
Nice.
like really off on what my pages are. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. And in 1988, here we go. Now we're in the cocaine-fueled 80s. When Jazzy was about 30, she moved to San Francisco, California. And at this time, San Francisco was a well-known haven for LGBTQ plus folks. And I couldn't find much on Jazzy's personal journey or feelings, but not too long after moving to San Francisco, like within a few years, she did transition to female. And I don't have details on that transition. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter.
No, exactly.
She's like, I'm a woman. I present as a woman. I use she, her pronouns. That's all I need to know. So something I think is really cool about this and really important in the story is that like Jazzy at this point is in her like late 30s, early 40s-ish when she's transitioning. And I only mention this because it is just such an amazing testament that it is never too late to start living as your authentic self. Like I've referenced, I hit my wine glass with the bottle. I've referenced StoryCorps before, and there's this really good one about a Vietnam vet who is a trans woman, and she transitioned after she had been like married to a woman and had kids, and her kids fucking disowned her basically. But it's like, it's never too late to start living as your true self. And if other people can't handle it, that hurts. That hurts. It's not fair. It is also their fucking problem. But I just love that, because I think there are a lot of people who come out later in life or who go on a journey to find their sexual identity and they find it later in life, and their experiences are not any less valid than people who were like, yeah, I knew I was gay when I was 5 and making my Barbies kiss, you know? So the 1980s were not a safe time for the LGBTQ plus community. Though certain advances had been made since the Stonewall Uprising in 1969, the HIV and AIDS epidemic was killing members of the queer community, particularly gay men, at a staggering rate.
Yeah.
And the epidemic was only encouraged by the U.S. government's lack of acknowledgement and the bigotry of the public, who felt that it was divine punishment. A really common thing to call AIDS was God's gift to the gays.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
horrible.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, if your God is gifting AIDS to people, that's not a God I want to follow.
No.
Like, are you fucking kidding me?
That's awful.
That is so and of course we're looking at this with a modern lens. I do acknowledge that there was a lot of misinformation and fear, but there were also a lot of people who fucking knew better and were still terrible. And this just fed into a lot of homophobia that was already in existence. It's so fucking sad. So for those who were HIV positive, it was almost certainly a death sentence. Because of the virus's association with gay men, it also outed young men to their families and colleagues. In response, people lost jobs, housing, and were disowned by their families. Like completely disowned. Like their entire lives fell apart.
I mean, we've talked in previous episodes
Yes.
where people would end up in hospitals and they would just have no one, and even the nurses wouldn't want to go into their rooms.
So speaking of previous episodes, when I covered Ruth Coker Burks, I talk about the story of Jimmy. And in my notes I wrote, I always think of the young man who Ruth Coker Burks first met in the hospital, Jimmy. He was dying from AIDS, and in the hospital, and even the nurses wouldn't go into his room, even though they knew they couldn't catch it. You know, it's not an airborne virus.
Yeah.
And they literally left trays of untouched food outside of his room because he was too weak to go out and get it. Dude's in a hospital. Are you seriously leaving trays of food on the floor? Are you fucking kidding me? And he died holding Ruth's hand, dehydrated and crying, but no tears were coming out because he was so fucking dehydrated, crying for his mother who had abandoned him. Like Ruth Ruth literally called his mother and was like, your son is here dying. And she's like, I don't fucking have a son. Fuck off. I didn't write down what episode number that is, but if you listen to the Ruth Coker Burks episode, you're going to hear that whole story. That story has just always completely fucked me. The shame, stigma, and risks led sufferers to try and hide their diagnosis as long as they could. But, you know, at a certain point when the HIV progresses to AIDS, you kind of start wasting away and it becomes very evident that you're dying, you know? So Jazzy herself contracted HIV. However, she was very open about it. Being queer, even in San Francisco, was not easy, and Jazzy saw how the issues of housing rights, labor rights, and aging and health rights intersected with the LGBTQ plus community. So she became an advocate for all of these. So housing, disability, race, and queerness are all inherently tied together. They shouldn't be, but they are. According to the Technical Assistance Collaborative, 31% of homeless individuals are disabled. Many disabled people are also living off of disability or Social Security, which is not enough to afford housing because, like, what you're getting for disability and Social Security is not going up. The housing is rising exponentially. Even if a disabled person wants to work, they typically have to stay within a low income threshold or risk losing their benefits.
Jeez.
So it's like, they have to pay more because they've got medical needs that are higher than, you know, the standard able person. And then they're not allowed to work. They're like literally, to qualify for any benefits, they're literally forced to exist in poverty. Yeah. Which is so fucked. One other thing, I know that in the disabled community, disabled person is acceptable and person with disabilities is acceptable. You know, putting the person versus the disabled identity first or not is a personal choice. I kind of interchange it, but just understand, like, if I'm talking to an individual who's like, no, I'm a disabled person or I'm a person with a disability, I will acknowledge that and respect that. But also, everyone's a fucking individual who gets to make their own personal choices. Yeah. So the story cannot be everything to everyone. So, even if it, oh no, I already said that. Okay. And all of that I just said is before we even discuss the difficulties in finding accessible housing. And I'm going to tell you right now, the housing that is more affordable is probably not accessible. It probably doesn't have an elevator. It probably doesn't have a no-step entry. It probably doesn't have wide enough doorways for a wheelchair. Like, and I'm just thinking of a wheelchair user. There are many. There's such a wide range of disabilities that people need accommodations for. But yeah, even the basic idea of being able to fucking enter your home is not guaranteed. And you might have to live somewhere where it's like, yeah, you can't leave without assistance because you're not going to be able to go back in.
Which is so shitty.
And then we move on to the inequities in housing for the LGBTQ plus community. So according to the Trevor Project, 28% of LGBTQ plus youth have experienced homelessness or housing instability. The rates are actually higher among trans and non-binary youth. And the reason for this epidemic of youth homelessness, like, remember, these are like 18 and under.
Oh yeah,
like these are literal children. So the reason for this epidemic is simply that kids are literally being kicked out of their own homes for being queer, or their homes are no longer safe places for them to be.
Yeah.
And that is disgusting. I know that they, like, I think it was in Idaho, they tried to throw like a straight pride parade. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with being confident and like happy with your sexuality if you're straight. But the reason that there's gay pride or LGBTQ plus pride is because no child has been kicked out of their home because they came out as straight. They actually probably never had to come out as straight. Like, are those inequities necessary? No. Yeah. Are they fair? No, but they fucking exist. And it's just an extra challenge that people have to face where they need a community and an event that says at the most basic level, your existence is okay.
Exactly.
You're not superior. You're just allowed to exist. That is all people are asking for. So that is why there is not a straight pride. That being said, pride is very inclusive. Like they don't give you like a gay test to enter.
Exactly. Like there is no entry.
Well, and sexuality and gender is a spectrum, which means we're all on it. So
yeah,
it really. So even for adults, housing insecurity is an issue. So thanks to historic discrimination, such as being denied mortgages, rentals, and housing assistance based on sexual orientation and gender identity, the home ownership rate for LGBTQ plus individuals is about 20% lower than straight cisgender folks.
Yeah.
Finally, race also plays a part, as it unfortunately does in so many of our stories. Black people in particular have historically been barred from home ownership, which is one of the best ways to build generational wealth. This discrimination was written into law on the local, state, and federal levels. And I highly recommend everyone reading The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. It is like, it really breaks down, like, if you're into conspiracies, this is literally our whole nation's conspiracy to prevent Black people from owning homes.
Jesus.
On every level of government. It's not just white flight. It's not just, well, the South was into segregation. It is everywhere. It is systematic. It is so baked in, and we are actually still dealing with it today.
Yeah.
Because for such an intentional segregation to occur, an intentional desegregation has to occur, and we just simply have not done that.
Yeah.
We haven't done it. So there's also there's a follow-up book, and I'm blanking on the name, but it's like The Color of Law, What Now? or something like that, where it's basically like, okay, the color of law ruined my life and I'm angry. What can we do about it? It's a whole like, here's how we can actively desegregate the United States.
Okay.
Really, really interesting. But it explores the ways that, the U.S. government segregated our country even today. So Black people were just denied mortgages, barred from buying houses in certain communities due to racial covenants, and their homes are still undervalued in appraisals. So I work for a community land trust. The community land trust model really took off in the 1950s because Black folks were not allowed to take out mortgages with the bank. So they like a big group combined their wealth to buy a plot of land where they created a self-sustaining community. Because they're like, if you're not going to give us a loan, we're just going to buy it outright. We're going to combine our powers. And even then the government like did everything they could to completely fuck them over. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
Even when Black communities found economic success, they were often attacked, such as in the Tulsa Race Massacre, where the thriving Black community known as Black Wall Street in Oklahoma was attacked by a white mob and essentially destroyed. And actually, even until recently, that was known as the Tulsa Race Riot because it was seen as like a Black versus white thing instead of a white mob attacking a Black community, which it was.
Yeah.
Minnesotans may be familiar with the Rondo neighborhood, which I did talk about a bit in our episode on Tony Stone. So this was the center of the Black culture in St. Paul, Minnesota, but it was demolished down the middle in the 50s and 60s to make way for Interstate 94. Using federal funds, the federal government sponsored the demolition of this Black neighborhood. The state's justification for plowing through half of a community was that the land was cheaper because it had been undervalued due to racism and redlining. Oh my God, it's almost like the system worked the way it was supposed to. And families and businesses were offered paltry compensation for losing their homes and businesses. It wasn't until 2016 that MnDOT commissioner and the St. Paul mayor formally apologized. And there have been recent efforts to reconnect the neighborhood using a land bridge.
They're doing a lot in that neighborhood right now.
There is also an effort to almost provide reparations for people who lost their homes and businesses. Like if you were affected by the interstate construction, if you lost your home or business and you want to move back to that neighborhood, you can qualify for down payment assistance. Even if it wasn't you, if it was an ancestor who was affected by that, you can qualify for down payment assistance. There is a community land trust in the Rondo neighborhood.
Yeah.
The president of it has like shows up to any event I go to, and she is just, I don't think I've ever talked to her in person, but I just look at her, I'm like, oh my God, you're so fucking cool. And I'm just like fangirling where I'm like, I can't talk to you right now. You're too cool. But they're doing really incredible work. The land bridge, unfortunately, has been like in discussion since 2000, and it hasn't really happened. If you Google Rondo neighborhood, you will find their website. You can donate to them. You can find more about their mission. It's really interesting. They are just such an active community. They're like, we've been hurt, and we're going to do everything in our power to rectify this problem. And finally, the establishment like MnDOT and the city of St. Paul are on their side on it. But again, they just apologized in 2016. So it's like the Rondo
too little too late.
The Rondo neighborhood has been fighting for this land bridge since the early 2000s. State organizations in the city have only acknowledged and apologized, which I'm like is necessary, but also kind of like a showy. I'm like, it doesn't require any real work in 2016. So we're starting behind the starting line.
Oh, yeah.
So Jazzy is fighting against all of these inequalities that we are still dealing with. And she's fighting this in the early 2000s now. So Jazzy had a really strong sense for justice, which guided her passionate advocacy work. In every area she was involved, Jazzy worked to provide dignity to people. As Assemblyman Tom Amiano remarked, and he was a San Francisco assemblyman, one thing that she always had that was very appealing was dignity. I think she understood the dynamics of the challenges she faced personally and how they connected to the causes she was in personally. Like really, her experience is this ultimate intersection of all these things that, with or without her experience, intersect, you know? And she's able to use that personal experience to touch on all of these different areas and like bring them together for greater change and more inclusive change. In 2002, Jazzy was living on 6th Street in San Francisco, plans to develop the Plaza Hotel on 6th Street were proposed, and this was part of an ongoing effort to gentrify the area. It was going to force evictions, places were going to close down. People are going to lose their homes. And Jazzy worked to oppose the development. And I couldn't find a ton about what came of this. Like, every article was like, she opposed the Plaza Hotel,
what does
6th
that
Street
mean?
development.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, she opposed it. I'm on board with that. And then what the fuck happened? But I did find, God bless Google Maps, that there is a Plaza on 6th Street apartment complex that serves individuals who have faced homelessness. This is run by the Tenderloin Neighborhood Development Corporation, or the TNDC, and this is an organization that works to provide housing solutions in the area. There is an SF, San Francisco Plaza Hotel, but it is several blocks north. Okay. So from that, I'm kind of piecing together, okay, the hotel was not built where it was originally intended, and instead, even like taking the name Plaza, a homeless shelter was built, and the hotel was built somewhere else in the community, which is pretty cool. So once Jazzy transitioned, her activism really kicked up, which I think is just a testament to the power of living as yourself and like not being fucking miserable in your own body. And as one of her friends and fellow activist, Gabrielle Holland, remarked, the metaphor of a butterfly is apt. She really emerged to become a really beautiful person who was much happier with herself, much happier with her life. She just really opened up in a beautiful way. Again, let people transition. Let people tell you who they are. She served as vice chair of San Francisco's LGBT Aging Policy Task Force and vice chair of the Lesbian, Gay, Transgender Senior Disabled Housing Task Force. She organized senior and disability action and ran the 6th Street Agenda, which was a food pantry, because like even in cities that are acknowledging food and housing insecurity, they often neglect the intersection of race, sexual identity, gender identity, that kind of thing. So this was a really important resource for folks in that neighborhood. Yeah. My favorite, is just because the name is amazing, is that she was the founder of Queens for Economic Equality, now also known as Queen. I'm like, yes, Queen.
Yeah.
So as part of the Prop L committee, she helped to successfully raise the minimum wage in San Francisco, which I'm like, love that. She served for 5 years on the board of directors for the San Francisco Trans March, which is a part of the larger like Pride events landscape in San Francisco. And then remember the Tenderloin Neighborhood organization I mentioned earlier? Unsurprisingly, Jazzy was a part of that too. I was all over their website and just doing Control F Jazzy. I couldn't find that information, but I was able to find it in one of the articles about her. She helped to organize tenant action for their housing clinic. As I was reading Jazzy's impressive resume, I thought, this must be a woman who was born to stand up and speak. She's like, I am going to do this. I am the center of this, and I'm going to make it fucking happen. And, there's just like, we've met those people that have that personality. But she was actually fucking terrified of public speaking. She's like, no, I don't want to talk to people. Certainly not in public. However, she knew how important it was for her advocacy work, and she overcame her fear. And this was like a really important personal victory for her.
Yeah.
Which again, I'm like, she is taking control over who she is and who she wants to be, and it's like,
yeah, she's getting to finally be who she is.
Well, and here's the thing. I'm never going to be good at math. Okay. That's never going to be like part of my thing. I can get better at math, So according to her obituary quote, even if her words were sometimes indistinct, she spoke with confidence, a feeling that heightened when she stood up for transgender issues and other battles she was engaged in. So like she was never like an MLK level public speaker, but she had the passion and she worked on it. I feel like
when the passion comes across, you
yes. know. I feel like it's so common when we're young, if we don't have an inherent talent for something, it's just something we shouldn't pursue. And it's like, you can have absolutely zero talent for drawing or writing or playing the trombone.
Yeah.
But if you start working on it when you're in 5th fucking grade, you're going to be really fucking good by the time you're an adult. And even the kids with inherent talent, if they're not working on it, they're not going to get better.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
I just love that idea. Like she worked on these things and actually improved. So Jazzy just kind of seemed to be involved in fucking everything.
Yeah, she's kind of doing all the different things.
So much. I really tried to inject as much information about Jazzy as a person, because a lot of the articles I read just kind of read like a resume. Like she did this and she was a part of this and she did that. And I'm like, that's awesome. But who the fuck is she?
Exactly.
So fortunately, I was able to find quotes from people who knew her, and I tried to
That's awesome.
like include more of her as a person. In June of 2013, Jazzy was honored on the floor of the California State Capitol by the Legislative Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Caucus for her advocacy work. In fact, she was nominated by Assemblyman Tom Amiano, who I quoted earlier, and he would go on to say that she, quote, was definitely a San Franciscan in every sense of the word.
That's awesome.
But the summer of 2013 was a difficult one.
Damn it, Emily.
Jazzy,
Can't we just end on a high note?
I could, but I'm gonna like miss a whole page. You know, I will say my legacy section is a little different, and it's very cool. So, Jazzy's health was on the decline. After a 20-year career in activism, Jazzy Collins passed away on July 11, 2013 at only 54 years old.
Aww.
She was cremated, and the location of her ashes are unknown, according to findagrave.com.
I mean,
I think that means...
I can understand why.
Well, and I mean, Matthew Shepard, that was the 90s. You know, they didn't bury him until like within the last few years, because they were so worried about his grave being defiled.
Exactly. Like that's what I'm saying. I can totally understand.
Yeah, and he was like, actually, he was finally interred. It was... I don't have the information in front of me, but it was like somewhere in DC where it was like his grave and his remains could be protected.
Exactly.
I remember like seeing that on the news, and it just fucking broke my heart, because I was too young. Like that was the 90s.
Yeah.
I was too young to fully understand the Matthew Shepard story, but I've definitely grown up with it.
But the fact that like there's this feeling that like it's not even safe to have like your dead body somewhere.
You're not even safe in death.
Exactly.
You're absolutely not. And that's so sad. So I kind of assume like a loved one probably has possession of her ashes versus
or buried her somewhere. You know, maybe she's buried somewhere and they just isn't public.
Yeah, I don't think it's like an alarm de gauche thing where it's like she was thrown in a pit and who the fuck knows? Because a lot of people really did love her, and I know that they would have taken care of her remains. One article reporting on her death said that the cause was still being determined, but they did make a connection to her HIV status. She had been HIV positive for a very long time. I didn't find a lot of other information about that other than she was HIV positive. She was very open about it. It did contribute to her disability, her health problems, things like that.
Well, and I think, you know, that's part of the advocacy of showing like, hey, one, this isn't necessarily a death sentence, but two, like me having it doesn't affect who I am or how you should view me.
Well, and fortunately, they did start making advances in HIV treatment to prevent it from advancing to AIDS. And like, I don't have all the details, so I'm kind of talking out of my ass, but they have been able to reverse HIV now, I think. Like in clinical trials, it's definitely not like a widespread thing. There's also medications that you can take to decrease your risk of contracting HIV. Yeah, so we have come a long way. And she passed away in 2013, so I think she probably had access to the more advanced treatments that, you know, when we're talking about people dying of AIDS in the 80s, they just simply did not have.
Exactly. Like the support wasn't there, but like the desire to find treatments wasn't there either. And that's very different now.
So instead of legacy, I have Jazzy's place. In 2015, 2 years after her death, The first homeless shelter for LGBTQ plus IA adults was opened and named Jazzy's Place in her honor.
I love that so much.
While the 24-bed shelter was designed to help the LGBTQ plus community in particular, it's not exclusive to them.
Yeah.
You know, again, there's no fucking gay tests.
Right, they're not going to turn people away.
Like, name all the Peter Pans. Like, no one fucking cares. But it acknowledges that there is an inequity. There is a lack of service for queer folks who are facing homelessness. So anyone can stay there, and the shelter supports and celebrates the LGBTQ plus community, offering guests a safe and affirming experience. Like, the day shelter where I volunteered, I can't imagine any of those people like purposely misgendering someone or insulting someone because they're queer. But it probably
does happen places.
I am 100% sure that happens places.
Exactly.
Because...
And this is one, especially in that area.
Yeah.
Where it's like you can come here and you can be safe regardless of who you are, whether you're gay, you're straight, you're transgender, whatever you, like, whoever you are safe here.
Yeah. And that's huge because like where I volunteered, it's regardless of their sexuality, their gender identity, their fucking criminal record. It's like, hey, if you're gonna come here and behave, just fucking come in and hang out.
You're not being a criminal in our space.
Like,
it's fine.
Get some food, charge your phone, use our phone to call people, use our medical clinic, get a haircut, use the showers, toilets, all of that stuff. I am sure that not every homeless shelter, day shelter is that inclusive and accepting. And I know there are a lot of places that are substance prohibited. So if you are on a substance, you're not allowed to go in. Where I volunteer, as long as you're not like hurting anyone. Like, people come in drunk or on drugs, you know, because mental illness is also associated with substance abuse issues. And they're like, people need help. And actually the people who are getting drunk to deal with their situation need more help. Exactly. So why would we deny that to them?
As long as they're being respectful, we're not going to deny them.
Exactly. And actually what's really interesting is so many of the folks that come in there are they're appreciative and they're understanding of that dynamic. So like, I have had a few instances where I've been like harassed by a guest. And first of all, the staff is always ready there, like, to be like, you got to fucking knock it off.
Yeah.
Before they can step in, it's usually other guests who are like, you need to fucking leave her alone, dude. Right, like come on. Okay. You gotta back the fuck off. So that's always very sweet. Gender reforming experience. So Jazzy's Place was the first homeless shelter in the United States for adult LGBTQ plus folks.
Wow.
That was 2015.
Yeah, that's huge. That's insane. Like, not that surprising, but still crazy.
It's not surprising, but I think with us having our specific vision and lens of history, where we're like, yeah, there was a lesbian gender swapping goddess in ancient Mesopotamia. How did it take us till 2015 to figure this one out?
Like, Minnesota's kind of known for like being more on top of gender affirming care than some other states. So we also grew up with that lens too.
Yeah. I remember when they banned conversion therapy, and a lot of people were really happy about it. It's a good thing. It is absolutely a good thing. I was shocked by how many people were like, this is such a waste. I'm like, children are literally being tortured. I thought you were all hashtag save our children.
Right. All lives matter. Yeah. Apparently not these
all
ones.
Lives matters, except for queer kids who are being put through religious torture and being told that their feelings are wrong.
There was definitely an increase in suicide in those kids. And it's
my God. Okay. If you listen to any interview with a survivor of conversion therapy, and survivor is a very intentional word, it is really shocking. Like, I don't think most people understand what truly goes into it. It's not summer camp. It is torture.
Yeah.
So, but we're not done yet. In 2022, the Jazzy Collins apartments were opened. The building offers 96 efficiency studios to formerly homeless single adults. Residents are referred by San Francisco's coordinated entry system and have access to free housing, a community room, kitchen, laundry room, outdoor courtyard, and a 24-hour help desk and like 24-hour on-site property management.
That's so awesome.
Coordinated entry is becoming a lot more common in cities, especially large cities, but it's basically the idea that there are a lot of organizations that people go to for help. And the idea is that, okay, if you go to the day shelter, if you go to the overnight shelter, if you go to the city, if you go to the county, if you go to this nonprofit, if you go to that nonprofit, because God knows there's a million fucking nonprofits, okay? You're going to get help and you're going to get like the same help.
Yeah,
you're going to
exactly.
get,
like,
you know,
it's not going to change.
it's not going to be like, oh, you reached out to the wrong person who can't offer this support. It's like, hey, that organization may not be able to offer that specific
we can
support,
help you.
but they're going to get you into the system where then you can get that help.
Yep.
You know, it's kind of like a no wrong door.
Yeah, which I think is so good.
Yeah, and actually in Rochester we are trying to do that. There's a new organization that has started that is really trying to consolidate all of the support for unhoused individuals, because there's a lot of people in this city and a lot of organizations are working to support unhoused individuals, but unfortunately they're all individual organizations and they're kind of
When if
separate.
they're smaller and
Exactly. So many of these places don't have the capacity to provide comprehensive support for all of our whole unhoused community. So that's why I think it's
awesome,
called
though.
Any Path Home. It's amazing. It's just getting started. I have a lot of hope for it.
That's awesome.
So, during the opening ceremony, Gerald Turner, the Chief Strategy and Operating Officer for HomeRise, said that speaking about Jazzy, quote, she needed to move. She needed to move effectively. She needed to move expeditiously. She believed you had to step up. You had to be there. Sorry, that was a terrible time for a wine burp. You had to make a way out of no way. And I thought that last part was super cool. So I got to go to the African American History and Culture Smithsonian.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about this even through 6 years of doing this podcast. That is like a Black American affirmation. The idea of making a way out of no way, because it's like everyone's throwing up these barriers and you got to find a way to make it work anyway. And that's not fair. But
Right,
it's
you
also
shouldn't have to, but
it's also a testament to like your Black identity. And it makes me think of the people who like created the community land trust. They're like, oh, you're not going to give us a mortgage and you're going to try to completely prevent us from buying property. We're going to fucking figure out a different way.
Yeah, like fine, we'll do it anyways.
And yeah, it's just it's so interesting. So that way out of no way is really it's just really impactful.
Yeah.
Despite Jazzy Collins being a more contemporary figure, I had a really hard time finding quotes or videos of her speaking for herself. Like the video links I found were dead links. They were no longer active. I did find some quotes, but they were like pictures of her with a quote.
Yeah, and it's always hard to know, like, is it actually hers or not?
And one of them like said, like, as a veteran, I'm like, I didn't read fucking anywhere that she was in the military. So I really didn't trust any of these like picture quotes. And like Marilyn Monroe is one of the most misquoted figures in history. Like,
because of stuff like that.
Literally because of stuff like that. So I didn't want to rely on any of those quotes because I'm like, I don't want to put words in this person's mouth, because she obviously could speak for herself.
Hell yeah.
Unfortunately, I couldn't find a lot of those words. So I did want to end this with the reflections of people who knew and loved Jazzy Collins. Friend and member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, Christina Olague. Olague?
Yeah.
Olague? She said, empathetic is the word that comes to mind when thinking of Jazzy. And Reverend, this is like one of my favorite quotes in this whole story. So Reverend Glenda Hope commented on Jazzy's legacy, saying that it was, quote, her total affirmation of all people. Let us be empowered by her memory. We all love Jazzy very much.
Oh.
But that affirmation of all people. She's not just fighting for queer folks. She's not just fighting for the disability community. She's not just fighting for Black folks. She's not just,
Yeah, she's fighting for everyone.
Because all of these things are so intersected if you're only addressing the needs of one community, which like I almost hesitate to call it a community because like, don't get me wrong, there is so much power and belonging and safety that you get from being like, I'm a member of the queer community.
Yeah.
Like I'm a member of the queer community and I like that makes me feel safe, secure, and not alone. But I am so much more than my sexual identity.
Yeah.
I'm also a woman. I'm not Black. Like I don't identify with that community, So like Black women who are queer have different needs than I
exactly.
do. There are ways that things intersect. There are ways they don't. And it's really just, I get why it's hard to like serve everyone, but it is so necessary to acknowledge these intersections and address them and meet those needs. I mean, dude, that's capitalism. Oh, there's a demand. Let's meet it.
Yeah.
Except now we're in the nonprofit sector where making money is not the point. So... But yeah, that is the story of Jazzy Collins, the triple threat trans Disabilibabe, who has fulfilled my need to cover a queer disabled person who also like address mental health issues.
Yeah,
Because again,
that was amazing.
Because again, mental health issues are also very inherently tied with homelessness.
I would say with everything,
and even like being veterans.
Yeah.
Like anytime anyone is like really critical of unhoused people, I'm like, oh, so you hate veterans? Like 30% or whatever the statistic is of unhoused people are veterans and they're disabled and they get no fucking help. Right? Yeah. Right? So you fucking hate veterans? Oh, no, you would never say that. Because it's okay to hate unhoused people. It's not okay to hate veterans, but you don't actually have to do anything.
It's not okay to hate unhoused people either.
Exactly. But it's like socially seen as more like there was someone on the Spot in Rochester Facebook page who posted a picture of people in a local park hanging their laundry to dry. And they're like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, hey, friend, I know it's really frustrating and disheartening to see people struggling and, not being able to dry their clothes in a traditional way. And it feels like you're helpless to do anything about it. But you could volunteer at any of these places or donate money to them because there are a lot of people doing really great work to provide these services for folks, but they need the support. So, and I was very positive. I was not sarcastic. But basically it was like, maybe instead of bitching on Facebook, you could actually do something constructive to help other people, you fucker. So.
Yeah. I like how you kind of turn that around. Like, I know this is how you feel, even though that's probably, not.
Well, and it's like, hey, I know that it's frustrating to see folks hanging laundry in a public park. And I know that it makes you feel unsafe. Just the way I feel unsafe when I see men walking in a park when I'm alone. What a crazy feeling. But, it's like, hey, here's what you can constructively do about it instead of posting pictures on Facebook of people who are obviously struggling.
Right.
You think anyone's hanging their clothes to dry in a public park because they
want to?
Yeah, because they're like, this is going to be such a funny prank. Like, fuck off.
Right.
So yeah,
I love Jazzy.
I'm so angry that she died so relatively young.
I know.
I am also really angry that most of the articles I found on her were like her resume and what other people said about her.
Yeah.
Like there was a video of her speaking. I was like, oh my God, I clicked on it.
Dead link. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, this video no longer exists. I'm like, God damn it. So seriously, if you have any other resources on Jazzy, I would love to do like a little follow-up. I would love to like read some of her quotes, watch some of her videos, things like that. She was obviously super involved. So the idea that there's no document, and she's involved in the modern era. So the idea that there's no documentation of what she was doing or saying is absolutely unacceptable to me.
Yeah.
So, Kelly, should we read from the Book of Brave?
Like, part of me wants to, and part of me is like, this has been a really long episode.
You know what? We're going to be brave and do whatever the fuck we want and not read from it.
We'll talk about Ruby next time.
God bless Ruby Rubin. In the
Ruby
name
Rubin,
of the
bless
Father, the
herself.
Son, and the Ruby Rubin.
There you go.
In the name of the Mother, the Daughter, and the Ruby Rubin.
There you go.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Whining About Herstory. Like us on Facebook at Whining About Herstory, Instagram at WAHPad.
Our website is whiningaboutherstory.com, where you can find a link to everywhere you can listen to us, as well as a link to our merch, our Patreon, where you can donate for as little as $1 a month to get some, excuse me, there's my badly timed wine burp. $1 a month where you can get some bonus content, as well as join in on monthly happy hour. You can also donate $5 to sponsor a glass of wine, or $15, and we will find a bottle that makes us think of you.
At buymeacoffee.com/WAH pod. Also, we had like, don't get me wrong, every happy hour we have where people show up.
Bitchin' though.
This one, we had Anders, I'm going to give you a shout out. This gentleman joined us at 2 in the morning from Sweden for our Patreon happy hour.
And it was delightful.
He's a great cat, or he's a cat granddaddy. He is fantastic. And like, we just had such like a good group of people. And like,
It was
so
like
sometimes
nice.
we try to play like games or do a like, would you rather, you
It
know,
was just nice chatting.
we just like, there was
For
no
like 2
need.
hours.
There was no fucking need. It was amazing. So please get in on that.
It's fun.
It's amazing. There's lots of animals. Like everyone's got animals. We're showing off. I got my
Right.
cat and 2 dogs. Kelly's got her 2 dogs. Other people have cats and dogs. Like, it's just cute fur babies coming out your ass. And if that's not reason enough to pay $1 a month, then I don't know what the fuck
I don't
is
know
wrong
what,
with you.
like, honestly, that's such a good, like, way to spend $1.
I'm sorry you're dead inside. Hopefully you're
that
working on it.
changes. Yeah,
Hopefully you're
like-
working on it. Therapy is good.
Mm-hmm.
Also raise 5 stars wherever you listen, because it gives us the warm fuzzies and pisses off all the right people.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Whining About Herstory. I'm Emily,
I'm Kelly.
and have an empowered day.
Bye.
Podcast is nonstop.